So yeah, there's the Yamaha 125, and now I've got a better camera. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better out on the road. It's a 2018 little Yamaha YS125, a little commuter bike. I'm actually loving it. Ever since I fixed it, which I talked about in the last video, I'm loving it. Just like McDonald's. So, we're going to keep going this way. Today's subject is all about getting on your first bike. So, I'm obviously 27. I mean, I may look 35, but I'm 27. I could go straight for my full A licence, as in the UK, and I think most of Europe, it is 24 if you haven't done the other A1, A2s. So, I think you can jump ahead slightly if you've done your A1, A2, and then you might be able to do it like a year earlier. But anyway, 24 is sort of, if you're getting into bikes, that is the age at which the government has deemed safe, because I think it is a good idea. I know it's going to be really frustrating for 18-year-olds who want to get like a nice bike and not have to have L plates on without doing a license, which is going to be obsolete in a few years because you can then upgrade. I think it's a really good idea because so many people don't understand how many dangers there are on the road. So I've got 10 years of driving a car. That has done me so much in terms of knowledge on riding a bike, or just being on the road, sorry. It's just taught me so much about being on the road, what dangers there are, what happens, and what to look out for. So I think upping it to 24 for a full A licence gives people that sort of life experience before they get on a 200 horsepower bike potentially, and then not quite sure of the dangers. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Everyone's going to have an opinion on that, so please share if you think that's a good idea, especially people watching from countries like the US, who I think you can just be on any bike at 18. You just do your driver's safety course, or whatever the course is, or something like that, and you can get on anything. And you guys might think our way is a bit stupid and naive, but please let me know in the comments. It would be a good idea for me personally to get a bit of experience on a 125 to see if I even liked the idea of being on a bike in all different weathers, or if I'd be like, actually this sucks, I'd rather have a car. So it's a cheap way to get into bikes, because the CBT cost me 190 quid. It's just a one-day course. Depending on your school, they may ask you to like bring your own helmet or something if they're a bit short. So my school, which was Ride 53 in Cribbs Causeway, Bristol. So I think they're a fantastic school. They're really educational. He was a really nice guy, Alan, who taught me and my dad, and he was really sort of forgiving. He would give us tips and answer all of our questions, ask if we had any questions, and it was just a really nice day, to be honest. And we went there. I think I brought my boots along because he didn't have that many boots, so I said I'll bring my own boots along and that'll make it a bit easier. But some schools may have more gear because Ride 53 is a relatively new school. But anyway, they'll coach you through what is on your bike. So they'll say, oh, do you know how a bike works? And you may or may not know. So they'll tell you where the brakes are, the clutches, the gear selector, the rear brake, the ignition, how to check your oil, brake levels, coolant levels if your bike needs coolant, and all of that sort of thing. After that, so they took me and the other two, which was my dad and this other chap, inside, and they ran through like safety about helmets. Sort of what do you know about helmets? Do you need to wear them all the time? What's the legal requirement of gear on the road? What's the legal requirement of a helmet? Sort of what grade does it have to be up to? What about visors? When should you replace a helmet? All of that stuff. Then they went into sort of a little bit of road signs here and there, and what experience we had. He asked us and if we had car licenses and things. And then we did the practical car park sort of test. And again, it's not a test, it is just training. Compulsory basic training is what it stands for. So it's not a pass or fail, it's just if he thinks you're safe enough, he'll then give you a certificate. If he doesn't, he'll ask you to come back and just do the whatever bit you needed to do, they'll work on that with you. But yeah, so we went out in the car park, he got us to turn the bikes on, and just get used to setting the bike off with the clutch in first gear, and then got us riding around in circles, going like a little bit of accelerating in first gear and second, and braking and go around corners. And then they got you to do bits like, oh, now we're gonna try go through a set of cones. So you go one way, you come around a corner and come back, and then you have to stop, look at the junction, indicate, and pull out of it the fake junction made of cones. And then they got us doing U-turns. After we'd done all of that, sadly the chap was, I think he was 16, and he was struggling to get the U-turn down without putting his foot down. So he gave me and Dad like a little bit of extra training with like slaloms with the U-turn at the end, a figure of 8 with the U-turn, or slalom into a figure of 8, stuff like that, just to keep us training and furthering our skills while he coached this other lad. The other lad sadly couldn't get the grip of balance on the U-turn, and that's not a big deal. He just said, you'll have to come back and we'll do this again, and we'll work on your U-turn ability, because it got to lunchtime. So we braked for lunch, and then we had a lovely little chat. So yeah, it's just nice to get to know him. Actually, I suggest you do that. You work up your rapport with whoever your instructor is, just to, you feel more comfortable then, and he feels more comfortable around you, and it just works a lot better rather than you being like awkward or nervous around him. Just treat him as a friend. So we went out on the bikes and we went onto the main road, and where their setup is actually, it chucks you in the deep end, which I think can be a bit intimidating. I was a bit nervous when I first went out, because you end up going on this sort of dual carriageway bit. I don't think it is a 70, it's still probably a 50, because it's in town. It's still 2 lanes of traffic and you're pulling straight out of the car park. And he just took us round for an hour, telling us to go left, right, then he got my dad to lead left, right, and then he got us to do like pulling over to the side of the road to stop safely, doing hill starts and all of that sort of thing. And then he got us to do a U-turn in like a neighbourhood area, so he could see it in real life, us working around parked cars and just making sure we're safe riders. I think that was about an hour and a half sort of thing. And then we got back, and he's in intercoms the whole time. They'll be talking to you through intercoms, and they say, oh, if we do lose connection, just stop and I will find you, and then we'll continue on. And it worked really well. We did lose signal a couple of times. We just stopped, waited, and then carried on. And it was a really, really enjoyable ride. It was the first time I was ever on a road on a bike, and it was just amazing. The CBT is not scary. I know everyone's going to be nervous going to it because you want to do the best, but just think of it as a really enjoyable day out. Try to enjoy it and just take on board what they say, and I think most people will be fine. My sort of advice to people, this episode's all about giving advice to new riders, and I'm not an experienced rider, so my advice is just going to be take on board what you learn from your CBT and work on it. So I haven't done it on the motor vlogs, but I will go out, I'll practice slow maneuvers, I'll practice U-turns, I'll practice just driving really slow and getting used to the balance. I'll practice emergency stops. So like, there's no one behind me at the moment, no one, and I'm going to try do an emergency stop. The road is a bit cold, but so you want to apply your front brake first, then add a little bit of back brake, and then just before you come to a stop, you pull your clutch in. The clutch is acting, your engine through the clutch is acting as a third brake, adds engine brake into the rear wheel. So it's good to have that clutch not touched until you're about to come to a stop. If you stall on an emergency stop, it is not an issue. It is not a mark down because you came to a stop. That is the most important thing. It's an emergency stop. You want to stop as quickly as possible and forget about keeping the bike running at that point. That's what the instructor said to me, and it worked fine. But let's just get onto a straight road where it's not covered in leaves, and I'll try doing just an emergency stop to show you. And it's just practicing these little things all the time. So that we're up to like 30. and we stopped relatively quickly there. This bike hasn't got the best brakes. It's only got a single piston and then a drum brake on the back, so other bikes will stop quicker. But don't be afraid of things like that. Even though you've passed your CBT, keep practicing them because they're all beneficial, especially if you want to do your A license or your next license. You're going to have to do it again for the instructor or the examiner, so just keep practicing them and keep your skills up. Other tips are sort of look at the road surface. If you think there's something dodgy coming up, just check what it is, but just look ahead. It's nice and far ahead. I'm looking round that corner at this moment, so looking for any headlights that are coming, any obstructions in the road. And I'm still working on my lane positioning. My lane positioning is not always great. Most of the time it's pretty bad, so I'm not going to give any advice on lane positioning. I want people in the comments, any viewers, no matter where you are, what license you got, please give tips of what you think's important once you're on the road for new riders, about what your mistakes were, what you've learned, and what skills they need to keep sharp. Because I'm not, at this point, I'm not gonna say I know any more than I do. I'm a rider on L plates, so I am not a skilled rider. So I'm just giving what my thoughts were of first jumping on a bike. I want people in the comments, if you're there, please leave some little nuggets of wisdom for those who are watching and are new to bikes. I think this is just a good subject to get people into biking and not be so afraid of it, because there's always the fear, the parents' fear, your partner's fear, and the fear that you have as well of like what you've seen that can happen on bikes, and you want to be safe. So having all the tips and tricks of people who have been doing it for years in the comments, I think will go a long way. So if anyone does leave a comment and is sharing the wisdom, then I greatly appreciate it.